In the vast and mesmerizing panorama of the universe, there were 9 worlds filled with life and captivating mysteries. However, amidst the glittering lights and beauty of the cosmos, one world was shrouded in unexpected darkness, known as Svartalfheim, home to the deadly Dark Elves. Thousands of years ago, Malekith, an unquestionable leader of the Dark Elves, embraced grand ambitions to shroud the universe in eternal darkness. In his greedy pursuit, Malekith planned to harness the power of a legendary ancient force known as the Aether to realize his nefarious ambition. However, fate had other plans when the forces of Asgard, led by King Bor, confronted Malekith and his followers in the Dark Continent. In a stunning and captivating battle, Malekith almost succeeded in realizing his plan to envelop the universe in terrifying darkness. However, fortune favored Asgard when they seized the Aether from Malekith's grasp. In despair, Malekith sacrificed his people, turning them into terrifying creatures to retaliate against Asgard's attack. At the same time, he fled to a dark and hidden place. Despite suffering significant losses, the warriors of Asgard eventually managed to defeat the creatures that were once the Dark Elves, solidifying their victory over the evil that threatened the universe. However, with its unparalleled power, the Aether could not be destroyed. Eventually, King Bor decided to bury the Aether in a place that would never be found by anyone to safeguard the universe's safety from unimaginable dangers. Unknown to King Bor, Malekith escaped with his lieutenant Algrim and a handful of Dark Elves. They went into suspended animation. Returning to Asgard in the present day, King Odin must face a difficult trial regarding Loki, his adopted son who wreaked havoc on Earth and attempted to seize the throne of the Asgardian kingdom. While many argued that Loki deserved the death penalty for his crimes, King Odin felt torn because of their father-son relationship. Despite Loki's betrayal of trust and triggering chaos throughout the universe, he was still a child raised under the auspices of Asgard. With a heavy heart, King Odin decided that the harshest punishment for Loki would be lifelong imprisonment. Despite being his adopted son, his actions had to have consequences. Therefore, King Odin decreed that Loki would be imprisoned forever as a reminder to all who break the law and strive for justice in the kingdom of Asgard. Meanwhile, Thor fulfilled his duties as a peacekeeper, striving to quell conflicts among the 9 realms in turmoil. Thor and his companions repelled marauders on Vanaheim to pacify the 9 realms following the reconstruction of the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge between realms which was destroyed 2 years earlier. After completing his mission, Thor returned to Asgard, ready to report to his father, King Odin. As King Odin offered Thor the chance to become his successor, leading the kingdom of Asgard, Thor felt honored. However, King Odin could sense Thor's hesitation in the silence enveloping the throne room. He knew that his son was still drawn to a human figure named Jane Foster. Wisely, King Odin counseled Thor to separate himself from his past love and accept Sif, his childhood friend, as his companion. King Odin explained that having a partner of noble lineage and heritage aligned with Asgard's was essential for a king. Although his father's advice shook Thor, he realized the wisdom behind his words. That night, the atmosphere in Asgard was festive, with Thor and his people reveling in happiness and camaraderie. However, behind his smiles, Thor couldn't shake the image of Jane Foster, his love whom he left on Earth 2 years ago. In London, Jane tried to move on with her life on Earth. Despite getting acquainted with Richard and attempting to forget about Thor, her heart remained tightly bound to the Asgardian god. One night, as Jane and Richard were preparing to order food, they were suddenly surprised by the arrival of Darcy Lewis, Jane's assistant, who informed them that Jane's gravity detector had unexpectedly started reacting. Memories of Thor flooded Jane's mind, making her feel embarrassed and trying to hide her feelings. Understand, Richard didn't want to see Jane distressed. He gently encouraged Jane to follow her gravity detector, knowing something might be deeper behind its reaction. Carefully, the two of them embarked on a new adventure. At the same time, Jane's feelings continued to churn within her, touching hidden spots. Jane and Darcy then decided to head to a place where there was an extraordinary gravitational field. Along the way, Darcy invited Ian, their colleague, to join them. However, throughout the journey, Jane kept trying to contact Dr. Eric Selvig for help but has yet to receive a response. Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Selvig had been apprehended by the police due to strange behavior around Stonehenge, England. Upon arriving inside a building, Jane and her friends met her subordinates who had been there earlier. They pointed out a truck that floated as if unaffected by gravity. Curiously, they climbed aboard. Up there, one of them suddenly dropped a bottle. They were all surprised when the bottle suddenly disappeared in midair, only to reappear and fall to the ground. Jane tried throwing a can of cola, but to her amazement, the object disappeared and never reappeared. According to one of them, some objects thrown indeed disappeared and never returned. Jane quickly concluded that this resulted from quantum gravitational anomalies that created portals to other worlds. Without hesitation, Jane led them to explore further into another room to discover more about this quantum gravity. As they entered the room, suddenly Jane was sucked into an unexpected alternate realm. In this new realm, she stood before a pole that felt very alien. Carefully, Jane began to examine the pole, and to her astonishment, she found something moving inside it. Unexpectedly, the Aether, the ancient force once controlled by Malekith, moved inside the pole. Without warning, the Aether suddenly entered Jane's body with unstoppable force. The extraordinary sensation overwhelmed her, leaving Jane stunned before she eventually collapsed. Malekith and several of his followers suddenly emerged somewhere in outer space from their cryo capsules. They are awakened by the Aether's release, sending a signal to awaken them from their long slumber. In the cosmic darkness, they prepared to plan their return to the world they sought. Meanwhile, Thor left the party in Asgard to meet Heimdall, the faithful guardian of the Bifrost Gate. Heimdall, who could see into the 9 realms and all their inhabitants, informed Thor of the upcoming events that would coincide across the 9 worlds. Despite their beauty, Thor was aware of the potential dangers. Thor's primary purpose in visiting Heimdall was to inquire about Jane Foster. Although unable to meet her, Thor hoped to obtain information about her whereabouts. However, to his surprise, Heimdall struggled to track Jane's location. Something strange hindered Heimdall's extraordinary ability to see across the universe. On Earth, Jane woke up in front of the same building. As she stepped outside, she was surprised to see several police cars lined up there. Quickly, Jane scolded Darcy for calling the police. Darcy explained that she panicked because Jane suddenly disappeared for 5 hours. Suddenly, Thor appeared nearby. Full of emotions, Jane immediately confronted him, angry at Thor for leaving her without explanation. Thor tried to explain, but Jane refused to listen. With frustration, Jane left Thor to state the police who were there. The police wanted to detain Jane for entering the building without permission. However, as one of the officers attempted to touch Jane, a great power suddenly erupted from within Jane's body, destroying her surroundings. Witnessing the strange event, Thor quickly took action, taking Jane away using the Bifrost portal to Asgard, protecting her and seeking answers to the incident. Malekith went to Svartalfheim with his right-hand man, Algrim. However, they found nothing was left there. The Asgardian forces had destroyed everything. Full of anger, Malekith vowed to seek revenge on Asgard for this destruction. Meanwhile, Thor brought Jane to be examined by the scientists in Asgard. They realized a mighty force inside Jane's body could absorb energy from its host. Jane's body would not be able to withstand such a powerful force. King Odin arrives, angry that Thor has brought Jane to Asgard without permission. Although Thor tried to explain the mysterious power within Jane, King Odin still disagreed with Jane's presence there. King Odin then ordered the guards to return Jane to Earth. However, as the guards attempted to touch Jane, another powerful explosion occurred from within Jane's body. Seeing the event, King Odin remembered something. He examined Jane's body and realized the force within her was the Aether. King Odin then took Thor and Jane to a place where he explained that Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, had once created an artifact from the darkness called the Aether. The Aether in its liquid form had the power to transform matter into dark matter, posing a threat that must be addressed. Long ago, Malekith sought to use the Aether to let darkness reign over the universe. Fortunately, Odin's father, King Bor, defeated Malekith and buried the Aether to safeguard the universe's security. Jane then asked King Odin how to extract the Aether from her body. However, King Odin said he didn't know how. Even the wisdom and knowledge of a god king could be questioned in this complicated situation. Elsewhere, Malekith gave the cursed stone to Algrim. By using the stone, Algrim could transform into a powerful monster. Algrim then disguised himself as an Asgardian prisoner to enter the palace without arousing suspicion. Inside the palace, Thor told Jane that previously, Heimdall couldn't detect Jane's presence on Earth. That's why Thor went to Earth to search for her. Thor also explained that the 9 realms always move within the Yggdrasil tree, similar to how Earth orbits the Sun. Every 5,000 years, the 9 realms aligned perfectly, forming what was known as the convergence. During the convergence, the boundaries between the realms blurred. Jane likely stumbled upon one of the gravitational anomalies leading to another realm. After the convergence process passes, everything returns to normal. Thor promised to find a way to extract the Aether from Jane's body to save her. With determination, Thor was ready to step forward for Jane's safety. Thor's mother, Frigga, then arrived. Thor proudly introduced Jane to his mother. Algrim used the cursed stone to transform into a monster inside the Asgardian prison. With his newfound strength, Algrim broke through the Asgardian prison walls. He quickly dispatched 2 guards and freed several prisoners, creating chaos. However, Algrim didn't free Loki. Instead, Loki informed Algrim of the way out. As the alarm sounded, Frigga ordered Thor to check the prison while she stayed with Jane. Without hesitation, Thor threw his hammer and Mjolnir and flew towards the prison. Upon arrival, Thor immediately engaged in battle against the escaping prisoners. With his strength and bravery, he fought to uphold justice and maintain the security of the Asgardian prison. Meanwhile, King Odin instructed Frigga to take Jane to her chambers. At the same time, he would assist the forces against the escaped prisoners. Elsewhere, Heimdall sensed an unseen presence entering the Bifrost Gate. Without hesitation, Heimdall swiftly pursued the object. Heimdall leaped and successfully impaled the object with his weapon with remarkable courage, only to discover it was a fighter craft belonging to Malekith's minions. However, it turned out to be a distraction for Malekith's more giant ship to enter. The Asgardian forces made a valiant effort to intercept Malekith's troops. Heimdall swiftly activated Asgard's protective shield, successfully destroying enemy ships attempting to breach it, thus maintaining Asgard's defense. However, Algrim damaged the shield's control center, rendering it dysfunctional. With the shield down, the enemy ships finally landed inside the Asgardian palace, posing a more significant threat. The enemy forces then emerged, launching an assault on the Asgardian troops. In addition to gunfire, they also deployed gravity bombs capable of sucking in those nearby, creating chaos on the battlefield. Malekith confronted Frigga and Jane in the chamber. Frigga bravely fought back with a knife, managing to injure Malekith, but Algrim suddenly appeared and restrained Frigga. Malekith then approached Jane, but she suddenly vanished. It was revealed to be a hologram. Malekith demanded Jane's whereabouts from Frigga, but Frigga refused to disclose it. Enraged, Algrim immediately killed Frigga. Suddenly, Thor arrived and attacked Malekith with fury. Seeing this, Algrim swiftly escorted Malekith away. Thor threw his hammer Mjolnir, but Malekith and Aldrin escaped using their ship and disappeared, leaving destruction and sorrow behind. Moments later, Jane emerged from her hiding place, ready to face the challenging future. The next day, all of Asgard mourned the death of their beloved queen, Frigga. After Frigga's funeral, King Odin began strategizing for the next attack from Malekith. However, Thor disagreed with the plan. He wanted to take Jane away to Svartalfheim, Malekith's homeland, to keep her away from the looming threat over Asgard. He no longer wanted any of his people to be harmed or killed. Thor was confident that once Malekith managed to extract the Aether from Jane's body, that would be the moment he would destroy the Aether and defeat Malekith once and for all. With unwavering determination, Thor was prepared to do whatever it took to protect his loved ones and save the universe from Malekith's threat. However, King Odin vehemently rejected the idea. The risk was too significant for him if Thor failed in his plan. If Malekith succeeded in obtaining the Aether, the consequences would be far more dreadful. King Odin insisted that Asgard must fight against Malekith to the bitter end. In Odin's mind, there was no room for weakness or doubt. He was a firm leader who believed that strength and bravery must be shown in facing threats that endangered the universe. For him, the war against Malekith was the only choice to maintain the safety and continuity of Asgard and the universe they protected. That night, Thor approached Heimdall for help, but Heimdall informed him that the Bifrost Gate had been closed, with no one allowed in or out. Heimdall also refused to disobey the king's orders, deeming it too risky. However, Thor firmly stated that everything they were doing now carried risks. He didn't want to see bloodshed again in Asgard. Eventually, Heimdall agreed to assist Thor. Thor also sought help from 3 Asgardian warriors, Fandral, Sif, and Volstagg. He explained that what they did was highly risky, as they would defy the king's orders. If they succeeded, it would be exiled, but if they failed, it would face death. Despite knowing the consequences, everyone present was willing to aid Thor. They were convinced that Malekith would surely come again to attack Asgard, and the subsequent assault would undoubtedly be more devastating. They realized they had to take Jane away from Asgard, but the closed Bifrost Gate hindered them. Thor then remembered that there was another way out, and only one person knew: Loki. Thor then visited Loki, who was in prison at the time. Loki looked saddened after learning of the death of their mother, Frigga, as Loki was Frigga's beloved child. Like Thor, Loki also wanted to avenge their mother's death. Thor asked Loki for help breaking out of prison so they could seek revenge. However, Thor didn't fully trust Loki, known to be cunning and deceitful. He threatened Loki that if Loki betrayed them, Thor would kill him without mercy. As a precaution, Thor then handcuffed Loki to prevent any possible betrayal. Nevertheless, Thor knew he had to rely on Loki's help in this challenging situation. Meanwhile, Sif was tasked with freeing Jane from the guards watching over her elsewhere. To divert King Odin's attention, Heimdall intentionally summoned King Odin to the Bifrost Gate. Upon learning the situation, King Odin immediately ordered his troops to stop Thor. Elsewhere, Sif led Thor, Loki, and Jane to leave while she held off the pursuing Asgardian forces. Thor planned to use one of Malekith's leftover ships in the palace to escape. Volstagg, who was there, agreed to block the incoming troops. Thor finally managed to power up the ship, but they were pursued by 3 Asgardian ships. Thor attempted to evade the shots from the ships. Moments later, Thor pushed Loki out of the ship. Thor and Jane then leaped out of the ship, finding Frandl waiting for them on another ship. Thor asked Loki to guide them to the secret way out of Asgard. Behind them, an Asgardian ship chased them. Frandl jumped and attacked the pilot of that ship. Loki then directed the ship towards a narrow gap in the cliffs. They successfully passed through the portal out of Asgard and landed in Svartalfheim. After successfully escaping from Asgard, they were ready to continue their plan to confront Malekith. Moments later, from a distance, Thor saw Malekith coming. As he had suspected, Malekith would surely come, sensing the presence of the Aether there. Back on Earth, Darcy finally learned about Dr. Selvig's whereabouts from the news on television. Darcy and Ian then went to the psychiatric hospital, pretending to be Selvig's children to free him. The hospital staff handed Selvig's belongings, including the portal antennas, to Ian. As they exited the psychiatric hospital, the antennas started to buzz. They then saw a flock of birds suddenly vanish and reappear beneath them. Dr. Selvig was delighted because he knew he wasn't crazy. He realized that the convergence of the 9 worlds would happen soon. In a secluded place, Thor stood atop a hill, gazing down where Malekith's forces and Loki gathered. Thor's eyes blazed with determination as he prepared to face his enemies. However, a shocking surprise befell him as he unshackled Loki. Quickly, Loki turned the tables, stabbing Thor coldly, causing him to fall from the cliff. In the painful descent, Thor reached for his hammer Mjolnir, but Loki severed Thor's hand with a sharp weapon before he could regain control. Expression of disappointment and despair appeared on Thor's face as Loki cruelly handed Thor over to the fierce forces of Malekith. Meanwhile, Jane, trapped in a frightening situation, watched the events unfold from a distance. As Malekith extracted the Aether from her body, Jane's vision was filled with horrifying images of darkness threatening to consume Earth and the entire universe. With fiery determination, Thor attempted to reach for his hammer Mjolnir, but Loki cruelly severed his hand. Loki then handed Jane over to Malekith's grasp, while Thor fell into unimaginable agony. However, as Malekith extracted the Aether from Jane's body, Thor revealed his hidden plan. His severed hand was merely an illusion. With a stunning surprise, Thor reclaimed his hammer and obliterated the Aether with a deadly blow. However, the Aether shards remained alive, attacking Malekith and entering his body. Algrim and Malekith wreaked havoc in the ensuing epic battle, while Loki fought alongside Thor against Malekith's forces. However, Malekith escaped in his ship, leaving Thor and his companions in despair. While Loki sacrificed himself in battle against Algrim, he activated a gravity bomb within his body. In his final heroic act, Loki ensured Algrim's defeat but also met his demise due to severe injuries. Saddened by the loss of his brother, Thor vowed to immortalize Loki's sacrifice in the eyes of the people of Asgard. With determination, Thor promised that Loki would always be remembered as a hero. Amidst the gripping storm, Thor and Jane sought refuge in the dark cave. With bated breath, Jane informed Thor of Malekith's evil plan to use the Aether in an attempt to destroy the entire universe. Her previous visions convinced Jane that the destruction would commence from Earth and spread throughout the universe. However, as the situation grew more tense, Jane's cell phone suddenly rang, breaking the silence. The arrival of an emergency call from Richard caught them off guard, as signals were rare in such remote locations. Jane quickly searched and found a can of Coca-Cola and other items thrown from the destroyed building. Suddenly, a mysterious portal opened and Thor and Jane entered the perilous realm beyond. They found themselves back on Earth amidst chaotic ruins. Jane swiftly leaped into Darcy's still intact car nearby, using the vehicle to reach her home quickly. At her house, Jane was greeted by Darcy, Ian, and Dr. Selvig. With a heavy heart, Jane asked Dr. Selvig to provide his data and research on the strange gravitational phenomena occurring, hoping to find a way to confront the escalating threat. Loki was revealed to still be alive in an unexpected and remote location. With cunning and mastery of illusions, he tricked everyone into believing he was dead. Disguised as a warrior, Loki returned to Asgard with hidden intentions. There, he presented a false report to King Odin, claiming that Loki had perished in an attempt to save Thor. Deceived by Loki's deceit, King Odin believed that his criminal son had breathed his last. Meanwhile, based on Dr. Selvig's analysis on Earth, they realized that Malekith planned to unleash the Aether from a single point on Earth. Each time the Aether took control of a territory, its power would increase, threatening the entire universe. To combat this menace, they understood that the convergence of all worlds was only temporary, and they must withstand Malekith's onslaught until the convergence ended. They were determined to withstand Malekith's attacks and prevent further devastation in this fragile unity. Dr. Selvig swiftly produced a map, focusing their efforts on locating the crucial convergence point. After meticulous investigation, they discovered that the convergence location was in Greenwich. With no time to spare, they immediately made their way there, knowing that the universe's future depended on their success. Upon arriving in Greenwich, Darcy and Ian quickly and carefully they have installed the portal antenna. However, tension reached its peak when, from a distance, Malekith's aircraft suddenly appeared. With Malekith's forces in tow, Malekith emerged from his plane with deadly arrogance. Yet, this moment was marked by Thor's descent from the sky, ready to battle against Malekith and his evil forces. Malekith, empowered by the Aether within his body, proved more vital than ever. In the epic battle, Thor hurled his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, with full force, sending Malekith flying backwards. Amidst the chaos of battle, Jane skillfully utilized the portal antenna, hurling several of Malekith's troops into another world, gaining an advantage for their allies. Meanwhile, Thor and Malekith engaged in a fierce battle, crossing through the portals that emerged due to the convergence. Malekith managed to overpower Thor back on Earth, demonstrating his increasingly enhanced strength. With time running out as the convergence of the 9 realms was imminent, Malekith forced himself to extract the Aether from his body. However, Thor quickly realized they needed to act swiftly to defeat Malekith and prevent the impending destruction. Returning to the convergence site in Greenwich, Thor retrieved the 3 portal antennas brought by Eric. Thor hurled the first antenna toward Malekith with precision and courage, who caught it immediately. Jane activates the portal, causing Malekith's hand to vanish into another world. Thor repeated the same action with the second antenna, sending Malekith's other hand to another realm. With the last portal antenna in his hand, Thor faced Malekith with bravery and the power of his hammer Mjolnir. He successfully embedded the antenna into Malekith's body, and Jane quickly activated the portal, causing Malekith to disappear into the dark abyss. After the heroic victory, Thor collapsed from exhaustion. With solid determination, Jane attempted to move away from the wreckage of Malekith's ship, which threatened to crush her. However, in that critical moment, Eric suddenly managed to use the portal antenna to transport the boat into a dark dimension. The ship crashed down on Malekith, marking the end of the terrifying threat. In Asgard, Thor approached King Odin and apologized for his bold actions against his father's authority. Despite some debate, King Odin eventually forgave Thor, realizing that his son had acted solely to save the universe. With pride, King Odin announced that Thor had proven himself worthy to be the king of Asgard. However, to everyone's surprise, Thor rejected the offer. Despite being advised to become the king, Thor believed his role was to protect Asgard as a guardian, not a leader. He assured Odin that his decision had nothing to do with his romantic relationship with Jane, but stemmed from his pure desire. As Thor left the throne room, it was revealed that the figure standing on the throne was Loki in disguise, indicating that his deceit and intrigue were far from over. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Sif and Volstagg sought out the Collector to entrust the Aether to him. They realized that keeping 2 mighty forces in Asgard could have been better, especially after storing the Tesseract. Meanwhile, Thor returned to Earth, determined to always stand by Jane's side, his beloved. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.